Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Week 15 Thursday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. We got Week 15 kicking off Thursday night with the Chargers and the Raiders. Once again, big tournaments out there for this Thursday Night Showdown. Don't have a Millionaire Maker, but we do have a $1.5 million tournament with $500K to first, $10 entry fee. Still really big tournaments out there. Draftkings continues to run out, huge tournaments for these Thursday night games, Sunday night games, Monday night games. So we're going to keep breaking down these showdown slates at least till the end of the regular season. And then when the playoffs get here, we'll have videos up for the full, I think there'll be a couple 4-game slates at the start. Then we'll have a 2-gamer and so forth. I will be making NFL videos during the playoffs. Obviously, NBA is returning very soon. NBA returns in about a week. I will have NBA videos up daily once the NBA season gets here. So I'm going to have a lot of content coming out on the channel pretty soon. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. If you are new here, click the notification bell as well, so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. If you do enjoy my videos, obviously I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button. But also, if you want to get more content from me, you can check out the exclusive content I do have to offer over on Patreon. I do have a lot of additional content over there. Obviously, the videos I put out on YouTube are free to watch. I'm giving out free advice on YouTube. But if you want to get a little more from me, you want to see more that I do have to offer, you can check out the Patreon link down below in the description if that does interest you. But yeah, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at this showdown slate for Thursday night. Start off at the top of the player pool like we always do. We'll start off with the 2 quarterbacks. We got Justin Herbert coming in as the most expensive option overall. He's $11,800 in the flex. And then you got Derek Carr coming in at $10K in the flex. So looking at the 2 quarterbacks here, you guys know it. I mean, you want to play at least one of the 2 quarterbacks. Rarely do you see neither quarterback in the winning lineup. I'm pretty sure almost every showdown slate this season, or at least close to it, you've seen at least one of the 2 quarterbacks be in the winning lineup. Quarterbacks just have such a high floor. Even if quarterbacks have a bad game, they're still giving you 14, 15, 16 points. Some guys, a little bit more than that, some a little less. But quarterbacks you're always going to want to play. Normally you want at least one of the 2. Sometimes you want to try and play both. I think this is a slate where I probably will be trying to get in both QBs. I guess if I can only choose one, though, I do give the edge to Justin Herbert. I just think he's the more talented quarterback. I think he has the more upside as well. I mean, we've seen Herbert just go off in some games this year. I mean, he had 30 DK points against the Jets, had over 40 Draftkings points earlier this year against Jacksonville. Like, this is a guy that can easily throw for 300-plus yards and multiple touchdowns. It does have a little rushing upside as well. We haven't really seen that the last few games, but he does have some game with 5 rushing attempts, 24 yards, 3 rushing attempts, 21 yards. Against Jacksonville, he had 9 rushing attempts in that game, 66 yards. Does have a little bit of rushing upside, does have a little bit of speed, so I do like Herbert here a lot. For what it's worth, last time he faced this Raiders team back in Week 9, he did have 26 Draftkings points against them, 326 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had 5 carries for 24 yards. I mean, on a single game showdown slate, we are obviously going to have interest in Justin Herbert. Even though he's the most expensive option, we do have some value that has opened up with Henry Ruggs getting placed on the COVID list. He's going to be out for this game, which brings guys like, Zay Jones, Bryan Edwards into play, and both of those 2 guys are very, very cheap. So we're going to have some value to pay up. I do like Herbert a lot at the top. He's obviously one of the better plays overall on this showdown slate. But then you do have Derek Carr at 10K. You are saving some salary dropping down from Derek Carr. Derek Carr has shown somewhat of a ceiling this year, especially in games where the Raiders are playing from behind. The Raiders are a team that wants to run the ball a lot whenever they're playing with a lead. But when they get down, we saw that against the Colts last week, even against the Jets. That was a pretty close game. I mean, Carr's thrown the ball 45 and 47 times over his last 2 games. Has shown, to have a ceiling, 35 Draftkings points against the Jets, 28 Draftkings points against the Colts. Really it's all about the touchdowns. I mean, Carr's going to need to probably score 3 touchdowns at least to really hit his ceiling. He's had two games in a row with at least 1 rushing touchdown. You obviously don't expect that to happen every week, but, if Carr's going to keep throwing the ball 35, 40 times, I don't know if that's going to happen here, but right now the Raiders are favored in this game, but I think that might be a little bit. I'd probably lean towards the Chargers in this game. I guess if I had to pick a team to win, or at least to cover, I do prefer the Chargers here. I think the Chargers might be the better team. I know the Chargers' record is terrible this year, but they are still a very talented team in my opinion. They've just had some bad coaching. They've lost a lot of games that, have been down to the wire. The Chargers are a really good team. They're definitely one of those teams that just seems to disappoint every year. They should be a lot better than their record shows. So I think this will be a close game. I think we might have to see Carr continue to throw the ball, 35, 40 times. Obviously, if he has like some of those games like against Denver, when he only threw the ball 25 times against the Chargers, last time they played, he only threw the ball 23 times. If you have one of those games from Derek Carr, obviously, you're probably going to be disappointed. The safer play is to definitely pay up for Justin Herbert, but I do like both quarterbacks here. I just think both quarterbacks have passed to ceiling games. I think I do prefer the quarterbacks over the running backs. We'll talk about Austin Eckler. I really, really like Austin Eckler, and I will definitely be playing a lot of him. But Josh Jacobs, might prefer Derek Carr over Josh Jacobs, even though Carr's at 1,200 more. I think I just give the slight edge to Derek Carr. So I do really like both quarterbacks. I want to try and play both. If I can only choose one, though, I do give the slight edge to Justin Herbert. But then you have Keenan Allen priced up there as well. You got Keenan Allen coming in at $11K. So Keenan Allen, he's been awesome this year. He's been a target monster, double-digit targets in just about every game this year. The only games where he doesn't have double-digit targets, Week 1 against Cincy, that was with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback. Week 5 against the Saints, that was a game where he got hurt. And then Week 10 against Miami. Those are the only 3 games this year where Keenan Allen has not seen at least 10 targets. So we know the volume's going to be there. Against the Raiders earlier this year, I'm pretty sure he had a solid game. Yeah, he had 9 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown for 28 Draftkings points. Obviously, Austin Eckler was not playing then. We've seen, with Austin Eckler back, he is a big, target monster in the passing game as well. But we know Allen is still going to get his. Obviously, Keenan Allen's a really good play here. You can't pay up for everyone, though, so I think you're going to have to take some stands. I guess if I'm only playing one lineup, I think I would give the slight edge to Austin Eckler over Keenan Allen. Obviously, Keenan Allen's a really good play. I think I do give the edge to Eckler, though. I absolutely love this matchup for Austin Eckler. We've seen so far this year, and just especially the last few games, the Raiders have not been able to stop the run. They got gashed by Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines last week. Even the week before that, we saw the Jets running backs running all over the Raiders defense. This Raiders defense has been terrible against the run. This is a great matchup for Austin Eckler. We know the volume is going to be there. Last week against the Falcons, he got 24 touches, 15 carries, and 9 receptions. We know he is a usage monster in the passing game. He's going to get probably 12 to 15 carries. He's probably going to get 8 to 10 targets as well. On DraftKings, where it's full PPR scoring, a guy like Austin Eckler is just so valuable on DraftKings with the PPR scoring. Love the matchup. I think he has so much upside here. If he scores at least one, if he scores one touchdown, he definitely has a path to 30 DraftKings points. Because, we saw last week, he didn't even score a touchdown, and he still had 23 DK points last week. So imagine if he finds the end zone, he's going to finish with close to 30 DraftKings points. One of these weeks, Austin Eckler is going to finally score a touchdown. He hasn't so far since returning from the IR, but eventually he's going to get into the end zone, and we're going to see him have, a 30-point game where he has, let's say 15 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown, and then 6 catches for 60 yards. That is definitely in his range of outcomes, if not, a better performance than that. We could see him possibly score on the ground and through the air just with how much they use him on both ends. So love Austin Eckler here. Definitely one of my favorite pay-up options overall. I think his upside is just through the roof in this matchup against this, Raiders run defense. At 10,400, he is a guy I will for sure be trying to pay up for at captain. I think he's probably one of my favorite captain plays overall if I can pay up at the top. I do prefer him over Derek Carr, over Keenan Allen, over Herbert as expensive captain options. But then when you drop down, you got Darren Waller at 9,400, who is obviously a solid play as well. Waller's been getting great volume the last few games. 7, 7, 17, 10 targets over his last 4 games. The floor on Darren Waller, I would say it's still somewhat a little low. We've seen games this year, Waller can definitely, kind of disappoint. He can definitely get 5 catches for 50 yards. That is in his range of outcomes, especially because this Raiders team doesn't throw the ball a ton. Travis Kelce, 5 catches for 50 yards, that's very unlikely for a guy like Travis Kelce. But Darren Waller, I guess that's one flaw so far this year on Waller is that he still has, somewhat of a low floor compared to some of the other elite tight ends like Kelce, like Kittle. But, the ceiling is still through the roof for this guy. We know the volume is going to be there. Whenever Derek Carr does drop back to throw, he's going to be looking Darren Waller's way. With no Henry Ruggs, maybe that'll open up even more volume for Darren Waller. At 9,400, I don't think he's going to be someone that I jam in. I think I do prefer to get to the quarterbacks like Derek Carr over Waller. I definitely prefer to get to Austin Eckler as well. But Waller is still viable. You could look there, but he's probably going to be someone I'm a little bit underweight on. I think I prefer some guys for cheaper. I definitely prefer the guys priced above him. So Waller's kind of in a range where I'll probably be underweight. You can't just pay it for everyone, so you got to take some stands somewhere. And I think Waller's someone that I'll probably be underweight on come Thursday. But Then you have Josh Jacobs at 8,800. Look, Josh Jacobs, the volume's been there this year. We know he's going to get a ton of carries. If they get down, that's obviously a concern for a guy like Josh Jacobs. That's kind of been the case the last 2 weeks against the Colts and against the Falcons in the 2 games that he has played. Those were both games where, the Raiders were trailing for pretty much the entire game and they were just forced to throw a ton. That's obviously going to be bad for Josh Jacobs, but in games where the Raiders are playing with a lead, they are going to feed Josh Jacobs the ball 25, possibly 30 times. We know when they get down to the goal line, that is most likely going to be Josh Jacobs punching it in. He gets a little bit of usage in the passing game, nowhere near the amount that a guy like Austin Eckler does. Definitely, if I can only choose one running back in this game, I greatly prefer Austin Eckler. But Jacobs is a solid play as well. He's another guy that's kind of priced to where I don't know how much exposure I'm going to get to him just because I think I prefer like the top 4 plays. Herbert, Allen, Eckler, Carr, those are my 4 favorite pay-up options. I don't know if I'll be able to fit all 4 of those guys into one lineup. Possibly you can do it depending on what kind of punt plays you go to. I just feel like this mid-range is going to kind of be a range that I'm probably underweight on, specifically 2 guys in Waller and Jacobs. I guess if I had to choose between Waller and Jacobs, I'd probably give the edge to Jacobs. But, those are going to be 2 guys I'm probably going to be underweight on as a whole, just because I think I really want to get the top 4 guys in, and, you can't play the top 4 guys with the mid-range options as well. You're going to have to play some punt plays that we'll talk about. So that's just my thoughts there. And then you have like Nelson Agholor, Mike Williams. So Agholor is someone that, has really just kind of come out of nowhere this year. Early on in the season, he really, wasn't doing much. Had some games with a few targets, 3 targets, 4 targets. And then really, I would say week 7 against Tampa Bay when he had 107 yards and a touchdown, he has really just kind of come onto the scene since then, especially like the last few weeks, the last 3 or 4 games. 9 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets, 9 targets. He has been heavily involved in this Raiders pass offense. He's definitely been someone that, I really had no interest in heading into the year. I didn't think he was going to be someone I would really look to play in DFS. Definitely wasn't someone that I was drafting in season long, but he's been pretty good. And, with no Henry Ruggs, maybe we'll see a few more targets head Nelson Agholor's way. At 7,400, I guess between him, Jacobs, Waller, when you factor in price, I think Agholor is probably the guy that I would lean to there just because he's the cheapest of the 3. And like I said, we can't pay up for everyone. I guess if I have 7,400 left in my lineup, like if I'm hand building a lineup and I have 7,400, I have no problem playing at Nelson Agholor, but I just don't think he's going to be like one of my first guys in. I don't think he's going to be someone that I really build around. Kind of the same could be said for Mike Williams. Mike Williams is another guy that I'm fine plugging in, if he fits into my build, but I just don't think he's going to be someone that I build around, like the first guy into my lineup. Williams, another guy that's just seen solid volume this year, but that ceiling and the floor, not where I want it to be. The floor is still really low on Mike Williams. We've seen a lot of games this year. He has, under double-digit DK points. Did have that big game earlier this year against the Saints. I think that was on a Showdown slate. It was like a Monday night game. He's had some glimpses of big games. He had 5 catches for 99 yards and a touchdown against Denver. I just never know what to do with Mike Williams. He's not a guy that I've really played at all this year. When Keenan Allen's healthy, we know Keenan Allen is just going to be a target monster. With Austin Eckler now healthy too, we know Eckler's going to get a ton of volume in the passing game. It's just so hard for Mike Williams to really have a big game unless he kind of breaks off a long touchdown or if he just scores multiple touchdowns near the red zone. He's not going to be a guy that sees, 12 targets. He's probably going to get 6, 7 targets at the most, I'd say. You're going to need probably a long touchdown from him or, for him to score at least 1 TD. At 6,200, again, if I have 6,200 left and I'm building out my lineup, sure, I'll play Mike Williams, but I just don't think he's going to be someone that I, kind of look to build around. He'll just kind of be, in my player pool, and if I get some exposure to him, that's okay, but not going to be one of my first guys in, especially not if I'm hand building any lineups. But once you get down past the backup QBs, once you get under 6K, we got Hunter Henry at 5,800. Look, Hunter Henry is someone that I've played a lot this year on the main slate just because tight end has been so bad, and Hunter Henry is someone that, is going to get 6 to 8 targets most weeks. He's going to be pretty involved in the offense. We know he's always a threat near the red zone, always has potential to score a touchdown. At 5,800, he's fine to play. Between him or Mike Williams, I think you get a little bit more upside out of Mike Williams. I think Mike Williams is more likely to break a 40, 50-yard touchdown rather than Hunter Henry is. But Henry is still going to get his targets. He's going to see his volume. He's just someone that I don't know what to do with him. I feel like he's not going to be someone that you have to win unless he scores like 2 touchdowns. I mean, his best game this year, I don't want to look just at game log, but his best game this year was like 14 Draftkings points. I mean, if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably going to disappoint. He's probably going to be someone that you don't want. Obviously, if he scores a TD, there's a chance he makes the winning lineup. But even if he does, like let's say he gets 5 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown. I mean, even if he does that, that's 15 DK points. Even if he scores 15 DK points, like it's not a guarantee that he's going to be in the winning lineup. I mean, we saw last Showdown slate on Monday night, Gus Edwards, he was priced around this range. He was like 5,200 or 5,400. Gus Edwards scored 2 touchdowns Monday night, and he wasn't even in the winning lineup. So I just don't know if the upside's really there for Hunter Henry for him to be, one of those guys that I feel like I have to have. I'd rather play some of these cheaper options that give you just as much upside, just as high of a floor, and they're cheaper. Hunter Renfrow for 4,800 I think looks pretty good as a value option. He's seen his volume this year. Most weeks he's getting anywhere from like 6 to 8 targets. This week he could see a few more targets heading his way with I can't say his name, with Henry Ruggs out. I know Ruggs hasn't really been like a target monster this year, but without Ruggs, I mean, maybe Carr looks to Renfrow, maybe he looks to Nelson Agholor a few more times than he normally would. At only 4,800, I think Renfrow's definitely a guy that I'm going to be looking to as a value. I mean, we know he's going to be out there playing in the slot. He's going to be out there running routes. He's obviously, when he is out there, he's out there to run routes and to catch passes. So for 4,800, getting a guy that's probably going to see 7 to 8 targets, I think he's definitely someone that I'll be looking to as a cheap option at only 4,800. I do prefer him over the kickers. I think he gives you more upside than the kickers. I think he gives you more upside than the defenses as well. This doesn't feel like a slate where I really want to play either defense. I think one of the 2 kickers is fine. Rarely do you see both kickers make the winning lineup, so that's one of the reasons I normally don't play both kickers in one lineup, just because it's rare that you see both kickers make the winning lineup. But you'll get those random occasions where a kicker will make like 3 or 4 field goals. He'll score 13, 15 points, and he'll make the winning lineup. So for that reason, I'm fine plugging one of the 2 kickers in if it fits my bill. But, if I have the salary, I do prefer to get up to Hunter Renfrow. I think he just gives you a little bit more upside. Receivers usually always give you more upside than the kickers do. Tyron Johnson, 5K. Probably not going to be someone that I get to at this price point. I just think he's too expensive for me. I mean, last week he scored I think like a long touchdown or like a 25, 30-yard touchdown. He had 17 Draftkings points, but you don't expect that to happen most weeks. Also, I'm pretty sure Mike Williams got hurt last week and had to leave the game, so that was one of the reasons that Johnson had such a good game. At 5K, Tyron Johnson just too expensive for me, given that Mike Williams is expected to play. Hunter Henry's still healthy. Agholor's still healthy. Keenan Allen's still healthy. Like, he's the 4th option on this team, and at 5K, I'm not going to play the 4th option on the team at 5K, so Tyron Johnson definitely going to be a fade for me. Would greatly prefer to get up to Hunter Henry or drop down to Hunter Renfrow, or even just play one of the 2 kickers. But once you get past the defenses, like I said, I don't really have interest in either defense. I mean, defenses I tend to be underweight on anyways, just because defenses have such low floors. Sure, they could get a pick 6 and score 12 points, but can we predict that? That's just so hard to predict. So I tend to fade defenses, just let other people play defenses, because most weeks the defenses are getting you 3, 4, 5 points at the most, sometimes 6 or 7 points. But even if they get 7, 8 points, there's a good chance the defenses aren't even going to be in the winning lineup. So yeah, defense is definitely going to be a fade for me. Once you get under them, though, there's not much that stands out. Like with Guyton, Balaj, Jackson, like these aren't really guys I'm going to be considering. I mean, I don't really want to play backup running back, so I'm not going to be looking to Balaj or Jackson. Not really going to be looking to Booker or Rashard. I do have interest in Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards, though, so with Henry Ruggs on the COVID list and out for this game, I am expecting Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards to both see a few more snaps, a few more targets heading their way. We don't really know who's going to be the direct backup to replace Henry Ruggs. Lately, Bryan Edwards has been playing slightly few more snaps than Zay Jones has, so maybe it'll be Bryan Edwards that kind of replaces Henry Ruggs. I think Edwards played on like 30 or 40% of the snaps. Honestly, I can't remember. It might have been a little bit less than that. Him and Zay Jones have kind of been around the same amount in terms of snaps played. We could see, these guys kind of split the timeshare in terms of snaps with Henry Ruggs out. We could maybe see, Edwards get up to like 50, 60%, and Zay Jones kind of be around that number as well. Edwards and Jones are both cheap, so I will definitely be taking a shot on both guys. Jones is only $800. Edwards is only $400. I don't know if I would play them in the same lineup together, but, for salary relief, if you're MMing, if you're playing a lot of lineups, I would definitely have Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards in my player pool. I guess if I had to choose one, I think Edwards is more likely to see more playing time, so I'd probably give the slight edge to him. Plus, he's a little bit cheaper, but I do like both Jones and Edwards. Now that Henry Ruggs is out, I think those are the two guys that are going to see increased playing time. And for $800, for $400, I mean, we really only need like 5-6 points from those two guys for them to really, kind of hit value. I mean, we saw on Monday night with David Njoku, he was really cheap. I think he was $1,000 on the Monday night Showdown slate, and he only finished with like 7.5 points, but he was still in the winning lineup with only 7 points. So there's a chance if Edwards or Jones, if one of those two guys gets you 3 catches for 40 yards, gets you 7 points, there's a good chance they make the winning lineup with only 7 points just because, those top guys are probably going to score 20-plus points. All of them are, so you're going to want to have them. It just comes down to, which values can you correctly choose. And if I have to play really any of these punt plays, any of these risky options under 3K, it's definitely going to be Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards for me, especially now that Henry Ruggs has been ruled out. I think those are the two guys that will benefit the most. But yeah, I think we covered the player pool, guys. I think we talked about really, kind of all the playable options that I'll be looking to. So let's take a look at roster construction just real quick before we do end the video. Kind of look at how I'm, approaching this slate, how I'm looking to build out my lineups. I said it earlier, if I'm paying up at captain, I think Austin Eckler, just given the matchup against this bad Raiders defense with how bad they've been against the run, Eckler is my favorite pay-up option at captain. So we plug him in at 15.6 as our captain. That leaves us 68.80 remaining per player. We're obviously going to need some value, but we talked about it earlier. We have some value down here with Zay Jones and with Bryan Edwards. I think I do give the slight edge to Edwards for $400, so let's plug him in as kind of our value play, and now we're back up to 8,500 remaining per player. I said it earlier, I normally want to get one of the two quarterbacks in. Since we have Eckler at captain, maybe we go with Derek Carr, but, Eckler, I'm fine playing Herbert with Eckler because of how much Eckler is used in the passing game. Like, Herbert could have 300 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and one of those touchdowns could go to Eckler. We could see Eckler have, 8 catches, 50 yards, and a touchdown. Like, he's just used so much in the passing game. Normally, I wouldn't want to play like a running back at captain with their quarterback, but this is definitely a different scenario when you have a guy like Eckler who is basically a wide receiver. So I guess if I can only choose one, probably still prefer Herbert, but I think we'll be able to play both quarterbacks. If we plug in Herbert and Carr, yeah, that still leaves us 6,100 remaining per player. So, we definitely got salary to work with. We could go with a guy like Mike Williams, and that would I think that would leave us enough to play, Hunter Henry. So we could maybe go Mike Williams, Hunter Henry in those last 2 spots. We could maybe drop down from Hunter Henry and go to Hunter Renfrow, who we talked about. I do like a lot as a value play, and that leaves us enough to play. That leaves exactly enough to play Nelson Agholor, who I think will benefit a little bit with Henry Ruggs out. So that's a build that I like quite a bit. You got Austin Eckler at captain. You got both quarterbacks in there. Then you got Agholor, Edwards, and Renfrow from the Raiders side. Obviously, we're banking on, in this build, we're kind of banking on the passing game really doing all the work. Eckler, I consider him a wide receiver at this point, so I would include him in the passing game. But, if Josh Jacobs runs for 100 yards and 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns, this lineup is probably going to do pretty bad. But, if Jacobs has somewhat of a disappointing game like he's had the last few weeks, this lineup could pop off for sure. So you kind of want to build out your lineups how you expect the game to go. Like, if you think the running backs are going to score all the touchdowns like they did Monday night, then, maybe you build around the running backs. But I think I prefer the passing game in this game, at least on the Raiders side. Now, on the Chargers side, I will definitely have a ton of Austin Eckler just because it's such a good spot for him. But, Austin Eckler, he's involved so much in the passing game that I would consider him a wide receiver at this point. But that's kind of a build that I like with Eckler at captain. I don't know if there's like any cheap captains that I'm in love with that I think have enough upside to be captain worthy. We talked about Hunter Renfrow. I like him as a cheap play, but I don't know if I would be using him at captain. Same with guys like, Zay Jones and Bryan Edwards. Those are just cheap flex plays that I'll be throwing into my player pool. I don't know if those are going to be guys that I consider for captain. But, like, if you play them in your flex, Jones, Edwards, that leaves you enough to play some guys at the top at captain. And, I want to get Austin Eckler at captain. I think Keenan Allen is definitely captain worthy as well. I don't know if I will play either quarterback because normally you see running backs, receivers, really pass catchers in general be in the winning captain lineups. Rarely do you see quarterbacks winning in the winning captain lineup unless it's a quarterback that has, a ton of rushing upside like a Lamar Jackson. That's obviously not the case here with Herbert and Carr. So I guess my favorite captains overall are definitely Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen if I'm paying up, in the mid-range. I mean, Nelson Agholor has shown some upside, so I could see using him at captain, but I guess he's not my favorite play overall at the captain spot. I guess if you force me to play a cheap captain, it would probably be Hunter Renfrow, but I'm not in love with that. I think this is definitely a slate where I'm going to be paying up at captain in a large majority of my lineups. I don't really see any cheap plays that I think have the upside to be, in the winning lineup at captain. So, yeah, guys, I think that's kind of it for this Showdown slate for this Thursday night game. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I do appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button down below before you do get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you do enjoy my videos, if they do help you out a lot and you want to get more content from me, you want to see more that I have to offer, you can check out my Patreon link down below in the description if that does interest you. I do have a lot of additional content available over on Patreon, so if that interests you, be sure to check that out, link down below. But best of luck on this slate, guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Hope you win some money, and we will see you in the next one. Good luck, guys. Peace.